Then Yahusha was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. How y'all doing today on this Sabbath day? Praise Yah. So, today we'll be doing a collaboration with Witnesses of Yahuwah and Fireside Chat YouTube channel. So, y'all know my father. Y'all heard his voice anyway on the threshing floor. This is Pastor John Smith joining me today on the Sabbath day gathering. And we also have his wife, Evangelist Julia Smith, sitting over. The rest of the family is over, all my children and everybody here in North Carolina with me. Y'all say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So today we'll be discussing a little bit as we go into the Great Shabbat, which would be next week. As y'all know, next week is Passover or Pesach. And as we come up on that, I was reading in scripture how while they was in the wilderness and Moses was up on the mountain getting the tablets of stone that had these in the Ten Commandments. If y'all remember, when they told Aaron to create the calf for him, Aaron said that there would be a festival of Yahuwah for tomorrow. So the festival that would have been taking place would have been Shavuot, or which would have been Pentecost. So that meant that after Passover, those 40 days that Moses was up on the wilderness, you count 50 days from Passover, that's Pentecost. Okay? So the people in the wilderness were still doubting and in disobedience, regardless of what they were doing. And so today I just want to talk a little bit about us being in our wilderness. Because in our wilderness, you have to realize something. Remember, he had to go before them at night as a pillar of fire. And he went before them as day as a cloud. And the thing was, what Yahuwah was doing was he was leading and guiding his people. And the thing that took place was they had to totally trust and depend on him. And so right now we're at a place in wilderness where we have to totally trust and depend on him in that wilderness. But does that mean that we do not keep his Sabbath? Does that mean that we do not keep his feast days? No, that doesn't mean that. It means that we are being trained on how to properly do it by him himself. So sometimes when it seems like it's kind of too quiet and you don't hear him, well, maybe you have to be at a place where you can hear him. And in the wilderness is where it's sometimes just the quietest place. Now, one thing I realized about the wilderness is that's the place where you go through your fiery trial. And as you go through that fiery trial, you will endure some things. So what Yah is teaching us is how to endure. Now remember, an 11-day journey turned into a 40-year journey because of disobedience. But now we listen and we be attentive to his word and we hear what he is giving, the instruction that he has given us, telling us, hey, I need you to go straight, make a right, and then go left. Yeah. It might lead you back to the same place, but you might have seen something that you didn't see before. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes everything that we think that we know isn't what we know. Because it might be right there before your face. Yahuwah might know it. You just don't know it. And so what begin to be taught to you is direction. And as you take his direction, you say, I already been here. And you say, I already know that. But it was something that I wanted you to see in that place that you didn't see the first time. Amen. And so sometimes he had to lead us in circles just so we can get to the proper place that he's leading us. Now remember this, the wilderness is where you end up before you get to the promised land. Because they could have just went through the Red Sea, or they could have went the way that Moses went back to Egypt, right? Yeah. He got there in a suitable amount of time, but in return, guess what happened while they was in the wilderness? They saw signs, miracles, and wonders. Amen. Now, one thing that we hear a lot nowadays is, you don't see the signs, you don't hear the wonders. The devil is a lie. I see him all the time. I got a 5-year-old that is a sign, a miracle, and a wonder. I have children that are sign miracles and wonders. You know, my family, period, just going through what we went through. I mean, it was by His grace that we were kept. So one thing that we have to realize is we think that healing is gone. We think that all these things that Yahusha did was removed, but no, those things still happen. The thing is, they happen when you in the wilderness. They happen when others ain't. Remember this, when they was in the wilderness and they saw a lot of stuff, people heard what happened out there. Yeah. So when they got ready to get to Jericho, what did they do? They fenced up a wall because they heard about the power of the God that went before them. They heard it. So see, a lot of people want to see things, but y'all said, I need you to hear it first. And it was the same thing with Yahusha. He said, y'all look for a sign. You could discern the signs of the sky, but you can't even tell that your Messiah is standing before you. See, because they wasn't hearing the word, and that's what he wants us to. He wants us to hear the word. When you hear the word, guess what? You become a doer of the word. When you become a doer of the word, then guess what? The word will be performed through your actions. And when it becomes performed through your actions, well, even you will be granted the power to turn blood into wine to show people, not people in the stint, but people to the point where, hey, you need to let my people go. And he turned not only the lake to wine or the river, but he turned the water that was in their very vases to, the blood. So it wasn't nothing supernatural that Yahusha did. It was just something that Yah had already instilled in him when his mother said, hey, turn the water to wine. If he could turn water to blood, he could simply turn water to wine, right? So this is, well, you know, and even the man, what did the man say when he gave him the wine? He said, man, y'all kept the good stuff for last. Normally you get that out first and then say the bad stuff, you know. But the thing was, when his mother gave him the instruction, he was doing what? He said, woman, it is not yet my time, but he was being obedient to those in authority over him. And a lot of times that's what we had to give obedience, you know. And when we give obedience, then we're entrusted to be able to do more. And then that fruit that we've been discussing, it'll begin to resonate in your life. A lot of people think the wilderness is just a desert place, but do you realize in the wilderness, that's where Joseph went to meet his brothers. That's pasture land for the feeding of the flock. And so sometimes the flock has to be led into the wilderness so that we can eat properly. I mean, so now I want y'all to recognize something. Do you realize in the wilderness is where Yah met up with most of his people? Abraham in the wilderness. Yeah. Huh? Joseph in the wilderness. While he was in the pit, it said that he believed that he trusted in Yah. Even when we were in Egypt, we were in the wilderness. Yeah. We was in a strange land. And there he did signs, miracles, and wonders. Even when we were led into Babylon, into captivity, that was still a wilderness because it was something that we didn't know. Yeah. So we had to keep our mind. Now, what was the first thing that happened after Yahusha was baptized by John the Immerser? It said that by the Spirit, he was led into the wilderness. So the first thing that Yah does with us is lead us into the wilderness. Not that we can, you know, have to be chastened or nothing like that. It's to see if you can endure through the wilderness. Remember what the scriptures say about the soils, the one that received the word with joy, but soon as temptation or tribulation come, then he quickly, because he didn't have root. But see, that's where you grow root at. If you can survive in the wilderness, become deep rooted, and only a rain come through every now and then, that says something. Yeah. You know, that says something in his eyes. He's like, okay, I got somebody that can stand. Them little shrubs that's out there growing, They got to wait on rain, so they know how to hold that water for a certain amount of time. And that's what we become, that living water that's in us, we have to know how to let it hold us at that time when we feel like we ain't hearing out. Yeah. At that time we feel like he ain't there. Yeah. You know, at that time, I mean, Stephen, and just, he broke down the history clearly to them, and they still didn't see it. And when they stoned him, he looked up and said, count this charge not against them, because he was in his wilderness. It said that man was filled with the power of the Ruach. Yes. And yet, they still couldn't hear. And he even described Yahusha through Moshe's teaching. Because that's what they were so accustomed to. Where they took what they said was Moshe teaching and began to doctor it themselves. Y'all know what I'm talking about, how you take somebody else's thing and you paraphrase it and you begin to make it your own, and then you say that this person said that though. I mean, we do it with the scripture all the time. People use it to benefit their building or their service or their institution, whatever it is, they use it. And they use y'all's word so that they can get a foothold over others. But he said that ain't what it's meant to be used for. It's meant to be a healing. It's meant to be a tool, a compass, a map, direction. So this is something that we have to pay attention to, because the wilderness is a place for discipline.
Amen.
So this ain't just a normal Bible study. This is one where I orchestrate anybody if you fit. And well, first we'll ask for Pastor Smith, to give some insight to what y'all revealed to him about the wilderness.
Well, Elder Wesley, what you were just saying, I realized when you were saying that Abraham, Jacob, and all those patriarchs, excuse me, they met God in the wilderness. Mm-hmm. Now, what I'm adding to that is that most of us meet God in the wilderness. We be going through something. We be going through something at the time, and instead of it getting easier and easier for it, seemed to get harder and harder. Mm-hmm. Let's say someone's parents is laying in the hospital with cancer. Mm-hmm. And we're praying and we're praying and we're praying and nothing happens. Then our whole being is taken up by that. Mm-hmm. And we become in the wilderness where food don't help, water don't help, nothing helps.
Yes,
nothing helps. And it seems like they're getting sicker and sicker and sicker.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we have an experience. We meet God. We see His face. Yes. And all of a sudden, things begin to change. Yeah. Because we went through that wilderness experience, and then once we got to the end of the road, yeah, we surrendered.
Come on now.
We surrendered and turned it over there.
All right.
See, Isaac had to surrender.
Yes,
he was in the fight with God upon the left, Jacob, but he still had to surrender.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm surrendering, but I want my blessing. So when we're coming out of the wilderness and we surrender and give it up to God, then He'll give us our blessing.
Yes, He will.
That's when that healing begin to work.
Yes.
That's when that change of heart comes. That's when love comes and abound in your body and in your system. Mm-hmm. See, God wants us to go through the wilderness experience, but He don't want us to stay there like some of us do.
Yeah.
Like they stayed for 40 years and all they had to do was cross a river. And they was right there at the promised land. But no, they had to wander around and around. And that's what we do. That's what men do. That's what women do. They wander around in the same thing. Our young people today are going through the wilderness because they don't want to be obedient to their parents. That's why you have all that guns and shooting and killing and all that's coming out today. They're in the wilderness and they don't want to surrender. They think they're in charge. Mm-hmm. And see, we have to pray. We have to pray them out of that wilderness because we're losing a whole generation.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
But see, God don't want us in the wilderness for long. He wants us in the promised land. He don't just want us preachers in the promised land. He wants everybody in the promised land. He don't just want us rich. He wants everybody prosperous. When I speak of rich, I'm talking about fully spiritual rich.
Yes, amen.
Because then we can worry about everything else after we seek God first. But we go through our wilderness. Now, I mean you're going through it just one time. Because we're human. Things often happen. And, you know, I'm reading about Jeremiah. In Jeremiah 17:6, it's talking about the wilderness is like being in a bush. And then you don't realize where your blessings are coming from. You don't realize where your prosperity is coming from. You don't realize that the light is there, but you're walking in darkness.
Let's read that real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay, for Jeremiah 17:6. For he shall be like a shrub in the desert, and not see when good comes, and shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness.
Amen.
A salt land that is not inhabited. Blessed is the man who trusts in Yahuwah, who trusts in Yahuwah.
Come on now.
So, I mean, look at that. Go, continue on.
And see, that's where we got to get to in our wilderness experience.
To trust him.
To trust him. The Israelites never trusted God.
I mean, even I think about when he finally allowed them to see the promised land, and he sent 12 in, and Moshe called out 12. He said, "Get 12 and send them in," and only 2 came back with a good report, and it caused everybody else to have the fault. And so this is what y'all revealed to me. Right now, we're at a point where there's a generation that has to be shed away so that the new generation can go into that place that he has called his people to go. Because he don't need cowards. He don't need those that ain't willing to believe in him. Because listen, the 2 that was like, oh, we can handle that.
Right.
That's nothing big. Yahuwah, we seen him do more than that. Remember when Moses, I mean, I'm pretty sure they were giving, remember when Moses was sitting up on the hill and I can't remember the people, the one where he had to hold his hands up, and Aaron and Hur came and held his hands up. Whenever his hands went down, we lost, but when his hands went up, we won. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Huh? Do you remember the time when we got to the Red Sea and we seen our enemies behind us?
Come on.
And even though they were behind us, when they got close enough, he separated a gulf between us with fire and a cloud. They couldn't see nothing, but we could see. And we had a chance to communicate on how we were going to do this. And did not God even set the blueprint up for how they should set their formation?
Yes.
Huh? And this is something else that's so awesome that if you read what Yahusha say, and I think it's John chapter 3, verse 14, he gave you a description of where he would be when he went to the cross or the stake, right? So he said, as I'm going to read the scripture. Because it's St. John chapter 3. I want to do that. St. John chapter 3, verse 14 through 15. Okay, he said, and as Moshe lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so the son of Adam has to be lifted up, so that whoever is believing in him should not perish but possess everlasting life. Now listen to this. The walk in the wilderness that Jesus did was him. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Remember, the serpents were biting the people in the wilderness. They would cause them to be poisoned.
Yeah.
See, all that poison that has been placed in your life, Yahusha is that serpent that Moshe put. Now listen, I ain't calling him a serpent. I'm saying, y'all told him to use a serpent, put it on a stake, hold it up, and the people that were bit would be healed. He said that he's a healer. He
Yeah.
said that he's a comforter.
Come on.
He said that he's the one that if you're going through anything, just call on his name,
Yeah.
right? So therefore, when he was sent to the cross, he was in the wilderness.
Yeah.
He was going through his wilderness experience. Even though he had already did 40 days, the wilderness, listen, we don't never fully get out the wilderness till we get to the other side.
Come on,
Amen.
man.
So this journey here in this world, the wilderness causes us to let go of the cares of the world.
Yeah.
The wilderness causes us those things, those I use cars and jewelry and all that different type of stuff that we have desire for. It melts desire away out in the wilderness. But see, Korah, remember him? Korah, the one that had a problem with
Yeah.
Moshe and Aaron,
Yeah.
and he wanted to become like the leader because he was causing the tumult.
Yeah.
See, that's something that Satan did up in heaven.
Yeah.
So God said, I can't have that.
Uh-uh.
Swallow him. He fell from grace. He fell from grace. Him and all those that congregated with him fell from grace, and the earth swallowed them whole in the wilderness. So see, don't think because you're in the wilderness, your disobedience won't be dealt with. It will. Because all he allowed to happen when they went through for 40 years, he was melting the fat away. When you put steak on a grill,
Yeah.
the objective is to get rid of the fat.
Come on. Now.
And what happens is the fire, that's what we're going through. We're going through a fiery trial so that all that fat can be melted away. So guess what? Sometimes some friends going to have to be separated from you.
Yeah.
Sometimes even some members that go to the same church with you going to have to be melted away.
Yeah.
And it might even be a leader here or there.
Yeah.
Family members too.
Family members too, because remember this, and this is the awesome thing about it. If y'all remember when they was in the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
And they built that calf, Moshe told the ones that trusted Yah, he said, I want y'all to take a sword and I want you to murder your brother.
That's right.
I want you to get
That's
your,
right.
whoever it is. So remember what Yahusha, see, everything Yahusha said is spiritual, but it had some kind of form of meaning
Yeah.
from Torah. He said, unless you love me more than you love mother, more than you love father, more than you love sister, friend, whoever it is, he said, you are not worthy of me.
He said.
And you see, because God is going to ask you to do something one day.
Yeah.
And he's going to ask you to do something that's going to go against what your mama think, what your daddy think, what your sister think, what your brother think. So if you are truly trusting God, then you're going to do what God asks you to do regardless of what happened with your family.
Amen.
There are people that trusted God that was kicked out of their family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People close doors on their own daughters, their own fathers, their own brothers and sisters. They turned their back on them because they wanted to go along with God. And see, the point I wanted to bring out about the two that went over into the promised land with the 10 and came back, God made it easy for them. He said, you didn't trust me, you didn't trust Moses, so now I'm going to give you some of your own peers.
Yeah.
So he sent them in there, sent their own peers in there, people that be with him every day. And he came out, and the two most prominent ones
Yeah.
out of the whole bunch, the two most trusted ones out of the whole bunch, they turned them down.
Yeah, right.
They turned them
Yeah.
down.
Down.
But they went along just like we do in the world.
Yeah.
Just like people do in the world.
Yeah.
They go along with the liars, the
Yeah.
backbiters, the
Yeah.
ones who talk about you behind your back.
Yeah.
That's who they go along with.
Yeah.
They won't go along with the truth.
That's right. And the truth, that everybody ain't gonna be able to taste the truth and accept it.
Amen.
Because see, even that, this is something that I love about Yahusha or Joshua. He learned something from what Moses did. Remember, Moses said 12. How many did Joshua send in Jericho to spy out the land? He said 2. He learned that, you know what? Too many will give a bad report.
Yeah.
So I send 2 that I know is trustworthy.
Come on now.
I know I send 2. So what God and y'all begin to do with us, he'll begin to say, you know what, I got to break them off in pairs.
Yeah.
Hey, come on.
And so what Yahusha did was like, all 12 of y'all don't go together because somebody gonna leave a bad taste in somebody else's mouth. So I need y'all to pair together because if one weaker than the other, then y'all can strengthen each other.
That's right.
So
So how can two walk together unless they be in agreement? So guess what? I'm believing this. Moshe began to break them up. Remember, it said that they called on different elders that would be over 10s, that would be over 50s, that would be over 100, that would be over 1,000. And then whoever had the least amount, you take it to that one. But as it get higher and higher, then it goes through the ranks. And it's the same way with Yah. He works through us like that. So in the wilderness, you can't go straight to Yah. Only Moses had that connection.
Yeah.
And not only that, Aaron was right there behind Moshe. So therefore, sometimes you have to stop and you have to seek him through prayer. And then guess what? He said that I sent my messenger before you, that messenger that has his name. Okay, the messenger is your angel. Everybody had one that when you were born. Now, I don't know if he was one of the dark side or the light side. That depends on you once you choose.
Depends on you.
Once you choose. Now, you can be given a minion.
Yeah.
But that minion will have dominion over you if you're not careful. So that's why we have to know what path. And see, this is something that I want to look at. Let's look when he was in the wilderness, Jacob, when he was in the wilderness, right? He was going through some things. Each time he ended up in the wilderness, he was one time running from his brother.
Yeah.
That's when he met God and saw the angels descending in and out of heaven. That's what they call Jacob's ladder. Okay, but we know that was, we seen a doorway from heaven to earth where they were coming through. But it was another time, right? Remember when Laban, when he said, I got to go. Because this man, he trying to get the best of me. So at the same time, now Jacob was a little scary there.
Yeah.
But we find out later on in life that he wasn't too scary after he fought that angel, because it said that he passed on what? His bow and his wisdom to his grandchildren. That man fought with God and prevailed. Now he came out with a limp. Some of us gonna come out with a limp.
That's right.
Come on now.
That tells that you've been through something. That tells that you've been through something. Look what it said. Okay, and Genesis chapter 32, verse 22. It's talking about how he left from Laban's house, but it gives a description on what he was doing. He separated his family. He said, y'all go on ahead, I'm gonna stay here. Because see, a lot of times, sometimes we call it to be in the solitude or seclude ourselves from everything else. And that, if y'all pay attention, that's what Yahusha did a lot of times when the people begin to depend on him too much. What did he do? He went to it said a desert place or a solitude or seclusion. To the mountain. That's the wilderness. Where did Elijah finally get his bounce back from when he was all depressed and ready to kill himself? Y'all told him, go up on the mountain. And that's where he heard the still small voice. So look at here, right here, Jacob, and verse 24 of Genesis chapter 32. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. This was in the wilderness. This is where this experience took place at.
Because he was sleeping out in the wilderness and he was using a stone for a pillow.
And when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched it. Now listen, when the angel saw that he could not overcome mere man, that man had possessed the strength that was passed down to him from Abraham because of the faith. It was faith that he held the angel by. Listen, it wasn't strength. Like we think that we got to be strong enough. No, you need to be strong in what? The faith. Strong in the spirit, in the faith.
You gotta be willing. You gotta have the willpower. You gotta have that staying power. You can't just give up because you think that you've been beaten. See, often we give up. And when do we give up? Right before we're about to receive the blessing. But Jacob told him, I'm not giving up. You have to give me, you have to bless me.
You got to.
You got to bless me. And see, we give up right before the time comes. Right at that minute when we're about to be blessed, we give up.
Look what it say. And when he saw that he did not overcome him. Now I want y'all to realize this when it say he saw that he could not overcome him. This is the messenger that y'all sent
Amen.
to Jacob to wrestle with him. And technically he was wrestling with y'all because it said he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was, now listen to this, dislocated. A lot of us would have gave up.
Ooh.
We would have tapped out.
Yeah.
Why? Because we felt something pop loose.
Yeah.
But it said, as he wrestled with him, and he said, let me go for the day break. But he said, I am not letting you go. Not until I get my blessing. So he asked him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. Y'all see that? Now, this is where, see, a lot of people don't see the recognition and name change. What El did was he placed himself in his name. You see what I'm saying? He said, your name is no longer called Jacob, but Israel, because you have striven with Elohim, with men, and had overcome. So, listen, remember what this is why y'all who should say certain things. He said, do not fear man that can just take the body, but fear the one that can take the soul and the body.
Amen.
See, we get so worried about what we think people gonna do and how. But I'm telling you, when you going through that wilderness, you just have to be willing to just sometimes accept the consequences that come your way.
That's right.
So that cause what y'all wants you to do, he want growth. And just like a shrub, as we read in Jeremiah, that shrub in the desert, it's gonna grow, but guess what? It's gonna take time. And not only that, it's just like when that water comes along, you better go on and take what you can and hold it. And sometimes when we give them the word, it don't mean that it's to be released right then and there. Sometimes when we give him a word, it might be a month from now. And then he might even give you another word behind the word that he already gave you, but that word might not be released for that season.
Yeah.
It's just like flowers. Certain flowers only blossom in certain seasons. And sometimes he give you a word for the season of fall, sometimes a word for the season of spring, but he might give you the word for the season of spring and the season of the fall. But you have to wait until you release it. Because guess what? It's some things that you have to circle back around to a couple times so that you can get it right and get, it's things in our life. And so I'm telling y'all, remember this, only 2 of them survived the wilderness.
That's right.
Moshe didn't even get to go into the promised land. So every time they went around, you think Joshua didn't learn them 40 years or something? You think Caleb didn't learn something? Did Caleb not go up to Joshua and say, look, this is the land, it will Kiryat Arba. And actually it's called Hebron. It's the land where Abraham brought for the family, and so that became the land of Judah.
Right.
Okay? Now y'all remember this, the 2 pillars of Israel's land is what? Ephraim, which is in Samaria, and then you got Judah. Who were the 2 that came back from the 2 spies? It was Joshua, the son of Nun of the tribe of Ephraim, and Caleb, the son of Osheb of the tribe of Judah. So ain't that something? You got the two different kingdoms from the 2 different.
That's right. You just spoke it that you just spoken about the significance of the word that each time we read a scripture,
We gotta go back.
you got to go back, you got to study,
It's
because there's
cyclical.
something there that's biblical that you need. Now you just compared Jacob, Joshua, and Caleb. Then you went back to them 2 pillars in Hebron. And see, this is where it's going, where it's leading to. Now, as we learn, as we go along, as we understand, we slowly move towards the cross. And see, that's where all this is taking us, to the cross.
To the cross.
And it all leads there, like you brought up the snake on the stick. That leads to the cross. Jesus he's the ultimate sacrifice.
Ultimate sacrifice. And the crazy thing about it is, where he was sacrifice was in the wilderness.
In the
Because
wilderness.
it said that they took her outside
Outside.
of the city. So look at the significance of that. How many people went to spectate that? You know?
That's right.
And not only that, even it said that his beloved John was there at his feet, you know, and he said to the mother and to the and where do you read about Mary and her older life is in John. So it begins to show you the relationship that we are to have with each other, because he said, this is your son and this is your mother. What was he doing now? He was showing us in the wilderness is where we become bonded.
Amen.
We become bonded with one another in the wilderness when we go through things. Even though that might not be my biological mother or my biological father, you see what I'm saying? I still have to connect to them through the word.
That's right.
And, go ahead.
I was going to say, when the disciples came to Jesus and they said, Jesus, your mother and your brother is outside, they want to see you.
Who is my mother?
Jesus said, who is my mother? Who is my brother? But those who choose to serve God,
Who do the will of
do
God.
the will of God.
Yeah. So look at the dynamic but behind the wilderness. If you recognize, I want everybody to realize this too. Wilderness in scripture is used 300 times. 300 times in scripture. And it has different meanings. It has a meaning to where you go to the feed your sheep, in the pasture. And so a lot of times, even when Yah is giving a description of where he wants to lead his people, it's always to the wilderness.
Amen.
Because he said he wants to feed his flock. Remember this. What did David say in Psalm 23? He started off, Yah is my shepherd, I shall not want. He does what? He take me to the green pastures. See? And then to the still waters. Where do you find those places at? In the wilderness. Even when he said he leads me down the paths of righteousness for his name's sake, the paths of righteousness, Yahushua say the road is what? Straight and narrow. And he said, hard is that way. The wilderness is hard.
That's right.
It's never gonna be easy getting through there. He said, and there's only what? Few that find it. How many came back with a good report? Few. How many was walking on the path after Yahushua was crucified? And they was discussing it. It was a few. It was two.
And if you still stay in Psalm 23, when he said, walking in the shadow.
Yeah.
Walking in the shadow of the valley of death.
That's in the wilderness.
You're in the wilderness.
In the wilderness.
Because the wilderness, it barely got food out there for you. There's barely water out there.
All you can do
So
is trust.
all you doing is walking in the shadow.
Mm-hmm. And you learn how to trust. You learning how to trust to the point where when you do get back into society, regardless of what the rents do, regardless of what the car note do.
Yeah.
See, and it ain't all about money. That ain't my point. All I'm saying is he can God can drop a diamond in your pocket.
It's all about trust.
And guess what? But are you gonna lose it when he give it to you, or are you gonna still know how to be, a representative of the kingdom? Are you gonna? Because some people, what they'll do is, oh man, I'm finna go do this, I'm finna go do that, and all he was just trying to help you pay your rent and your car note, because that's what you asked for. He gave you more, and you went and did more that you shouldn't have done with it.
Amen.
I learned from things like that. So I went around in circles, but there are times where he done had people drop things, and then I turn around and I do extra with it instead of putting it away for next time, or going to help somebody else in the same.
In other words, you became Joshua and Caleb.
Yeah.
You said, we can do this. Not, oh man, we can't do this, we can't. No, you became Joshua and Caleb. You begin to realize
Hold on.
that you had to hold on. So now then you got to walk into the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say you went back and tried to bring some with you. And you know some listened and some didn't.
Some listen and some didn't.
Some wouldn't cross. Some wouldn't cross over. But some did.
Mm-hmm.
Because you wanted to be that Joshua. You wanted to help them. You wanted to show them the light. That's what this ministry is all about. That's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Showing the light. Walking in the light. Bringing to light the truth.
Think about this. Where is the light the brightest at? In the dark. Where is the dark at? Because there's no silver. There's nobody to put light. I'll tell y'all what. Go into Arizona. My uncle told me about this. He said he went to California. It was cheaper for him to get in Arizona or New Mexico, rent a car and then ride across the border to California. He said, man, it was so dark out there. He said even the headlight. He said when he turned on the headlight, he said it looked like city lights because it was so bright out there. He said, but it wasn't nothing else. And he said, man, now that I think, he was like, I was really in the wilderness. He said, man, you know the little tumbleweeds they show? He said, I really saw that type of stuff going by. So you have to think about it. Being in that place, the only thing that you have to give you light is the stars from the sky.
Stars and the moon.
And you have to think about, just put your mindset back in it. They didn't have light to carry around. They didn't have that type of stuff. But when you was given light, what did Yahusha say? He said, you don't put it under a bushel and hide it. It's used to produce light so that others can be guided properly. He said, you are a city on a hill. See, people from the wilderness see that city and they know what direction to go. They feel like, I got somewhere to
Amen.
yeah. And so we become that city that people see from their wilderness. And sometimes, guess what? Sometimes you have to put up little torches along the way so that they know they're getting closer.
Yeah.
And that's what he does with us. He puts up little beacons. And he said, now listen, this is why we keep the Sabbath. Because the Sabbath is a sign between us and him.
Right.
And on the Sabbath is when you're that wilderness, other people can see the light and know what direction to go.
Right.
So it's nothing, nothing against anybody that do keep do the Sunday, go to church on Sunday. But we are supposed to keep the Sabbath. The Sabbath is meant to be kept as a sign between us and him. And that's where he first gave them the word to keep the Sabbath was in the wilderness. Remember this, and I think about this all the time, how Joshua was being trained to take Moshe's place. It said that when he went up on the mount, it said that Joshua went up with him. Now, he didn't go the stint all the way up, but he was there.
He was there. He was right at that.
Because it said when they were coming back down and they heard all the commotion, Joshua said to himself, oh my goodness, war. And Moshe said, no, this isn't war. See, y'all had already gave him the heads up. He said, man, them people down there doing something they ain't got no business doing. Now y'all recognize this now. See, so this Sunday, and this is what I loved about Yahusha, when he would like, y'all take Moses and made him a god. That man got mad and broke the tablet. Like, the tablets that were just written with the finger of he took them and broke them. I mean, he had something of possession that we know that he touched with his hand, and he broke it. And then it said that he took the calf, stumped it to dust, put it in water, and made the people drink it. We anger, we do when people don't follow the right path. But what we have to learn how to do is we have to learn how to give them a taste. Y'all didn't hear me. He gave them a taste of their own medicine. He made them drink that because it was distasteful to Yah. Yeah. And so what he had to do was let them taste how he because remember this, whatever we do when we worshiping, when we praying, because these become our sacrifices. That's how we become a reasonable sacrifice. Through prayer, through worship. And I try to break this down to people. Worship is just not on one day. It's throughout your life cycle.
That's right.
The way that you live is worship.
Worship.
And so when we do that, he said it is as a sweet smell and savor. Now, if you smell something sweet and nice and good, you want to taste it.
That's right.
So remember this. I want to tell y'all something. Y'all taste he tastes your fruit. Every time you love.
Every
Come
time.
on.
Every time joy is presented, or you give joy to somebody else.
Right.
Anytime.
Oh, right. Awesome.
And see, so this is the thing. That's why you can't allow people to steal your joy.
That's right.
And that's why when Yahusha said, hey, if you go in their house and you bring peace and they don't accept it, take your peace back with you.
That's right. Take it back with you.
Because every piece of fruit is precious to Yah. And if we allow it to rot, then what good is it? I don't never want my fruit to become like the summer fruit that Amos saw. What do you see, summer fruit? What was y'all describing now when he asked him, what do you see? Summer fruit rots quick.
Yeah.
I mean, cantaloupe don't last. Watermelon don't last. Leave it sitting in there long enough, it'll sour and spoil, and try to eat it. You can smell it.
Yeah.
You know, but an apple now, you can leave that sitting around. As long as you don't cut it open, you can leave it sitting around a little while.
Yeah.
But guess what? It gotta eventually be eaten
After a
or
while.
it's gonna rot.
After a while, that's right.
And so guess what? Y'all said I don't just leave my fruit sitting around. If I can smell it and it smell good, I'm gonna eat it. So this is what in the wilderness he teaches us how to produce that fruit that needs to be properly produced. And so that's why we can't allow our joy to be still. That's why we have to be able to give love, even if those that hate us. What did he say? Pray for those that hate you. What? Love those that hate you. And if they curse you, he said, bless them.
Bless 'em.
A guy told me the other day, he was playing, but he said, man, I know you a man of God, but I'm gonna stick my middle finger at you. I said, I'm gonna bless you. He said, I need it. I said, well,
Amen.
I'll give it to you freely, but it's gonna be double dosed upon you if you do that.
Yeah.
So I mean, even sometimes you have to recognize when the enemy trying to trigger certain things because you're being tested, and you just have to be. You still always have to be on guard because that serpent is a slippery joker, and he's the one that leaving that venom. But like I said, if I be lifted up from the earth, I'll do the drawing. People were drawn to that thing because they were being bit left and right in the wilderness. And that's why, guess what? The spirit is always going to lead you into the wilderness. And guess what? The serpent is always going to be there to spread his poison. What is his poison? Lies. Destruction. He tried to even talk Yahusha into doing those things. And who did he ultimately try to make Yahusha enemy? Not him. He tried to make his own self the enemy. Because when we be corrupted from our desires, that's the hardest one to overcome is ourselves.
Yeah, that's right.
We are our worst enemy.
Yeah.
But when you replace y'all's desire for your desire, then that changes the course of things. And so Yahusha was more willing to do that which the Father called him to do. Remember this, at 12 years old, right? It said the parents were traveling back and they realized in the wilderness, they realized that there's some. Now listen to this. This is the crazy thing. 3 days had on went by.
3 days.
But that's because we can entrust people. But this young man stayed back, and it said when they found him, he was preaching to the people. And when his father and mother came up to him, he had the audacity to tell them, "Did you not know that I must be about my father?" And imagine this. Imagine how the publicans and the lawyers look like. I don't believe he just said that to his dad. But he wasn't talking about the natural man.
Right.
He wasn't talking about the natural man. See, he was on a mission from birth. And a lot of us are on missions from birth. Right. We just had to go through the wilderness for a certain amount of time. And guess what? Even though it seems like, listen, when things start going good, don't get to the point where, oh, I'm out the wilderness.
Come
No,
on, it's
no.
real now.
You're not out the wilderness. You in this wilderness until you
Till
get
come
there.
back.
Yahushua went through the wilderness his whole ministry.
That's right.
Guess what? Where he sit the people down at?
In the mountains,
In the wilderness.
in the wilderness.
When he broke the fish and broke the bread, where were they?
He was
In the
always
wilderness.
out. He was always out in the wilderness.
In the
somewhere.
wilderness.
He was in the desert, in the wilderness.
Or on the lake, preaching
On the
from
lake.
the boat. Somewhere, I mean,
But he was never in the temple. He was hardly ever in the
he
temple.
went to the
And
temple
when
on the
he went
Sabbath.
to the temple, he was on the front steps. That's why they got mad with him, because the people listened to him instead of coming on the temple.
And listen to the reading. Because what he did was he illustrated the reading through his message.
That's it.
And even the time when he did go to the synagogue, they would get mad at him because he would read scripture pointing to the Messiah. And they were like, how dare he? Hold on, how does this untaught one come in and teach with this demeanor?
See, that's what they think, just because you don't go to their school or do what they do, that you don't know anything. You got a lot of places out there. You got a lot of churches out there like that. You got a lot of schools in the world out there like you didn't go to Yale. You didn't go to what's the Harvard.
Harvard, LSU, and all those different places.
But and people think you're dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of these professors, a lot of professors, I know one that was a professor at Yale, ended up being a broken down drunk because it overtook his mind because God was not included in his path. Only thing he wanted to do was learn and teach and teach and teach until he couldn't handle it no more.
Yeah. See, this is something that a lot of people don't know. The anointing, it says in 1 John 2:27, but the anointing which you have received from him stays in you, and you have no need that anyone should teach you. But as the same anointing does teach you concerning all, and is true, and is no falsehood, and even as it has taught you, you stay in him. See, when you're in the
Do me a
wilderness,
favor,
you're being
please.
taught.
Read that again.
It said, but the anointing which you received from him stays in you. It stays in you. When you're in the wilderness, you have no choice but for it to stay in you because that's what's nourishing
That's
you.
it.
That's what's keeping you. And then the awesome thing about it is it teaches you, it says. And you have no need that anyone should teach you. But as that same anointing does teach you concerning all, and is
Amen.
true, and is no falsehood, and even as it has taught you, you stay in him. You got to stay in him though.
That's right.
See, so when Jacob was in the wilderness, he was being taught. He taught, and then what did he do? He passed on to his children.
What did Abraham
And
do?
his children, and his children. And it passed all the way down. And look at here today. We still call on the name. You know, we still teach our children, when we teach our children, say, listen, a lot of them are going to be prodigals. You have that prodigal. A lot of the children of Israel were prodigal children. And even though, I want to point out something. I like to point out the fact that even though when David went out into the wilderness, and he was told to take his brothers that food,
Yeah.
he heard a giant out there bad mouthing God.
Yeah.
He heard a giant out there bad mouthing God. Now listen to this. The giant said to him, "You little boy, how dare you?" Like he felt like, how did little boy? And so when Saul was like, "Man, look, you sure you want to do this?" He said, "Look, when I be out in the wilderness," he said, now, when I'm tending to my sheep, he said, a lion came and I killed that lion. He said, a bear came and took one of my sheep and I killed that bear. Now, this was in the wilderness too.
I was in the wilderness.
So when the armies met up, right, they were at a battlefield, but it was a deserted
In the wilderness,
place.
in the battlefield.
And in the wilderness, but he heard afar off, and so him and his audacity and his boldness felt the need to address the army and say, how dare y'all allow this uncircumcised
Come on.
Philistine? And then he didn't say the army of Israel. He said the armies of the living God.
Of the living God.
How dare you allow him to do And so his brother's like, man, you need to go somewhere. You need to, and so now listen to this though. So God told Samuel, right? He said, look, man, I found the one out of my own heart. Now see, Samuel went with the intention that, it gotta be that old boy right there. It gotta be him. Man, them boys, they big, they kind of huge. And so every time he went to get rid of another one, y'all said, no, not him. So he looked at,
You got to have another song
he said,
somewhere.
do you got another son somewhere? He said, oh yeah, he out in the wilderness. Boy, when he saw David, he said to himself, that little
That little red one.
bitch y'all said, hey, don't judge it by his outer appearance.
I tell you, foolish things.
Don't judge it by his outer appearance. He said, I judge him by the heart.
Come on.
And so see, when we in the wilderness, he judging us to see
That's
where our
right.
heart is.
Yeah.
He judging us to see how you know. And so when David finally showed up after the whole anointing thing went on, now he ain't that awesome how he went out there. The king offered him his own, and he said, I don't need your
I don't
own.
need it. Come on.
He was already anointed to take his
Yes,
spot.
yes.
And the king gave him his own.
And said, I don't need
David,
this.
this mess is too big. I don't need
I don't
this.
need this.
See, you know why David didn't need it? He had on the armor of God.
Hey, amen.
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 And he was ready. He went willing to feed somebody.
Come on.
And went to defeat somebody.
Yeah.
Amen.
Got it? I said he went willing to feed somebody.
Amen.
He did.
And he was going in obedience because that's what their father told him to do.
Yep.
But he had a great obedience he had to follow. He said, this guy
See,
cannot.
that's what people don't realize. You may send me out for one thing,
Yeah.
but God has in mind for me another.
Oh, no. That's
I
right.
might be doing good to bring you your lunch,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but then there might be that giant over there. All right?
Come
Uh-huh.
on.
There might be that giant over there that need to be defeated. And it don't just need your strength, but it needs our strength with God.
Yeah.
Because we are weak without God.
Hey.
Amen.
We have not the strength without God.
Yes.
Just think if David had a thought like the rest of them thought.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He would have been like the 10 causing all the other people to faint.
And all of Israel be their slaves.
All of Israel. Because they tried to get out of it, but David cut off the head of the giant and then had Israel chase the people down because they tried to back out. Goliath done rid of check that he couldn't even, it bounced. It bounced. And then they bounced.
Amen.
Tried to leave. But see, we have to recognize that the Bemidbar, which is the wilderness, or the Midbar, which is the wilderness where you in the pasture, we're led there to eat. We're led there to grow. We're led there to overcome. And we're led there to triumph. So that when we overcome all the obstacles, all the giants, because throughout your life, you're going to have giants. I don't care what the situation is. But are you going to be like the 10 that came back with a false report? Well, it was a true report because they said in our eyes, they like grasshoppers. We like grasshoppers to them. But see, their heart wasn't in, because it said that they caused the people's heart to melt. Even when, I love when Caleb go back and he said, look, he said 40 years ago, Moses told me they could be my land.
Yeah.
I'm holding them to that through you.
Mm.
He said, now, 40 years ago, which make me 80, I think he said 82, this go round, I still had the same strength that I had back then. Was he talking about natural strength? No. He was talking about the spirit. That's where you grow in the spirit in the wilderness.
Amen.
And as he went through. Y'all remember this. In history, Joshua is one of the greatest military masterminds that ever stepped
That's
foot
right.
on this earth. And not through his own intelligence, but through y'all leading him listening and being directed by what the Father given him. Because remember this now, remember when Joseph was made governor, right? that lineage had a form of kingship as well. So that's why Joshua, the son of Ephraim, was sort of like the first, not king, but judge before the judges. Because y'all remember after he died, then they started doing what? Spiraling down, then they'll go back up, then spiral down, and go back up, and finally Samuel came. And even then, remember when, was it Saul went to get the Hittite, and he kept the king, and it said when Samuel came up, he heard goats bleeping. Yeah. Said, hold up now, I know I told him to kill everything. And this man said, he said to himself, and this is what I want to show you, when you willing to walk with the Father, regardless of whether you prophet, teacher, pastor, evangelist, whatever the fivefold apostle, you have to be willing to pull your sword sometimes. See, Samuel, when he heard all that going on, he didn't only slaughter the goats and the sheep, he killed the king too.
Yeah.
Right there in front of Saul and told him, Spirit of God no longer with you. See, so we have to know our place. If he has entrusted us with something, because remember this, the king was the preacher.
Right.
The king was the, and so if you gonna be disobedient, then you let everybody else to disobedient.
Everybody else's strength.
And so that's why we had to pray for our leadership. We had to, because you don't realize the wilderness that they go through. Even if in our eyes there's certain things that ain't right, let y'all deal with that.
You just made me realize something. You know, in the Psalm, David said, "Take not your Holy Ghost, your anointing."
Yeah.
I'm just realizing that David must have saw that spirit when he left Saul.
He had to.
And that's why he knew what would happen, what he would have to go through. But I also want to add something else. Them 3 Hebrew boys who went in the fiery furnace, they told Nebuchadnezzar, they said, if God don't save, if God do save me, he's my God.
I'm still gonna trust.
I'm still gonna trust him.
And guess what? When they went in the furnace, y'all might not see that, but that was the wilderness.
Yeah. Come on now.
I'm just saying, when Daniel got thrown in that line, then that's the wilderness.
Because he was separated from everybody else. You ever be in a crowd and feel separated? You feel alone.
Yeah.
You're in your wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
You're in your wilderness. You feel lonely.
See, this one thing I love about him. We're gonna go on this real quick, and then we're gonna kind of let it mellow down, okay? Because the spirit is moving.
Amen.
So let's look at something, because there's gonna be times when you feel like you're going through something and it feel like the Father just ain't there. It's gonna be like times when you feel like, oh my goodness, I mean, how much more can happen? But I want to tell y'all something. This man of God just defeated 450 prophets.
Come on.
I mean, he saw the power of God work.
Yeah.
He said, look, go get me 12 basins of water and fill up my altar with water and watch God lick it up. I mean, and he said he messing with him. Where's your God? Is he on vacation? Has he went to sleep? I mean, just going at him. And then even though it took one person, Jezebel, to trouble his heart. And then it said he ran and went where? Into the wilderness.
Into the wilderness. And see, a lot of us need to go in the wilderness because we get weak.
Yep.
We get weak, we lose our strength. God is still with us, but it's us that need to go in the wilderness.
We need to be renewed. Listen, when I want y'all to recognize this. Most of the time when you read the Pauline writings, Paul's writing, what is he telling you to seek? He's telling you to receive, first look at yourself and do a what? Examination.
And where is he always at? He's in his wilderness. He's in prison. He's in shackles.
Oh, on a ship.
On a ship. Always somewhere.
Yeah.
Bitten by a serpent.
Ooh.
I see a lot of people don't understand when he got bit by a serpent, the reason why his hand didn't swell, because he had already seen the snake held up by the.
That's right.
He trusted in the Father.
He trusted
and his Son. So now look at this. Look at this real quick. Okay, because as you said, sometimes we get weak. He got weak. Now listen, this is what it doesn't baffle me. It's just funny because we all have this characteristic. This man prayed and shut the heavens.
Yes, he did.
It didn't rain for 3.5 years. Then, after he defeated them, remember this now, it was no water. So it was a drought. So whatever water he did use to put in there, y'all ain't following me on this. Whatever water he did use to put in there was scarce.
Yeah.
What are you doing, man? It's already a famine in the land.
Using our dropping.
It's scarce. You're using a resource that we need to try to prove something. I ain't worried about it because afterwards I know what's gonna happen. He prayed again afterwards, and then it said that they sent the guy back 7 times. And when he came back the last time, he said, "Oh, thundercloud down there." But then, after he killed all the prophets of God, Jezebel said, "Tell you what, by this time tomorrow, you're gonna be dead. Same thing you did to them, I'm gonna do to you." Now, did it happen? No. Why? Because he was in the wilderness crying about dying.
That's right.
All right.
God sent him to a place where he was protected.
Yeah.
I mean, see, we get in the wilderness, we might not have no food to eat, we might not have no water to drink, but see, we don't trust God. We begin to start searching all these places, begging and asking people for something because we don't trust God. And God fed Elijah out of. He sent a crow to feed him. And there was a little stream before it dried up. He gave it to him for water. But see, we get scared and all of a sudden we're knocking on doors, we're trying to go into a homeless shelter, we're not trusting God.
Yeah.
We don't trust him that he can take care of us.
Exactly.
And see, then we worry about food when the scripture clearly says that man cannot live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Now
Hallelujah.
look at this right here. I'm gonna just start with verse 19 because it just fascinated me that this man let one word change his whole outlook on. It said, and when Ahab reported to Jezebel all that Eliyahu or Elijah had done, also how he slew all the prophets with the sword, Jezebel sent a messenger. Now listen to this. She knew where he was. She sent a messenger to him. To Elijah saying, so let the mighty ones do to me, or let the gods do to me, and more also if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. And he feared. Now, he feared. So I want y'all to tell y'all something. Sometimes you run in a situation,
All right.
and it's going to cause you to fear. But I want to show you something. And he rose up and ran for his life and went to Beersheba. Now, I want y'all to recognize this. This is where he fought with the angel. Okay, he went to Beersheba with, no, that's not where he fought with the angel. He fought with the angel in, what is it called? Phanuel. That's the face of God. Okay, so Beersheba was a place in the wilderness, though, where one of them met up. But which belongs to Yehuda, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat under a broom tree. Now, I want y'all to recognize there's a juniper tree. Now, if you look at the root of a juniper tree, it's all tangled up and crossed up. So you can understand why his mind was in such a screwed up place. He was sitting up under a tree that had some screwed up roots. And he prayed that he might, listen, he prayed that he might die. He prayed that he might die. Imagine that. It is not enough. Now Yahuwah take my life, for I am no better than my father. And he lay and slept under the broom tree, and see, a messenger touched him and said to him, rise and eat. And he looked and saw by his head a cake baked on coals and on a jar of water. So he ate and drank and turned and lay down. Now, if he really wanted to die, he would have ate that food. He would have let himself starve to death. But look at this. And he looked and saw verse 7, and the messenger of Yahuwah came back the second time and touched him and said, rise, eat, for the journey is too much for you. See, we don't realize that he just preparing us for the next journey that we gonna go on.
Right.
It don't matter to me what you think, because right now you letting your feelings interfere with the spirit.
That's right.
Remember, the spirit isn't a feeling. It's the ruach. It's Yah's movement in
Come
your
on.
life. So look what he said. He said, and he rose up and ate and drank again, and strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights. So listen to this. He does things in the 40s. Y'all know that.
Yes.
So Moses, he was up 40 days and 40 nights. By the time he came back down, the people was riding and partying and doing all that filthy stuff, and he made them taste their own medicine. And then now you got this man here in the wilderness. He was there 40 days and 40 nights, and y'all finally said, you know what, man, get up and eat. Stop being, we sometimes belittle ourselves. And we get in, and that was anxiety. He had anxiety, he had stress. You gotta think about it. He felt like he was the only prophet, only person of God left. So he said, and then he went into a cave. Now listen,
Come on.
sometimes we put ourselves in dark places.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He put himself in a dark place. And he spent the night there. Now, he was looking for covering too, in case it rained or whatever. But sometimes we put ourselves in dark places and not realizing the things that looms in the darkness. But this is what happened right here now. Look, he said, and see, the word of Yahuwah came to him and said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? What are you doing? And this is what he replied. And he said, I have been very jealous for Yahuwah Elohim of hosts. Now, his name is jealous, so he don't need us to be jealous for him. He's jealous all by himself. He has the right to be jealous because he's the creator. We don't have no right. You see? So he said, I am jealous. And he kind of shut him off right there. He said, for the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, and they have thrown down your slaughter places, and they have killed your prophets with the sword, and I am left alone, and they seek my life to take it. And this is the perfect opportunity right here for you to get to know him better, because sometimes he wants you to feel like you alone.
Right.
And see, at that moment, in that place, instead of you, picking up your phone and playing on your phone, or picking up, turning and watching TV, sometimes he leaves you alone so that you can get to know him better through your word,
That's right.
through prayer,
Amen.
sometimes through meditation. Just meditating and just letting it marinate in you. So look what he said. And he said, go out. He's basically telling him, get up, man, and stand on the mountain before Yahuwah and see Yahuwah pass by, great and strong, and wind tearing the mountains and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yahuwah. Yahuwah was not in the wind. He wasn't in the wind. And then it said he was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire.
Yeah. Come on now.
He was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. Have you ever been at that point where you just about to give up and then you hear that still small voice?
Yes.
Amen.
And it says this, and it came to be when Eliyahu heard it, then he wrapped his face. See, that's where the anointing came from, that mantle, when what's his name wanted that double portion and it fell, and he went to go, that anointing wrapped around, when he wrapped it around his face, the Ruach of Yah overtook it. That's why he was able to slap the waters and it separated. So he said, and it came to be when he heard it, that he wrapped his face in his robe and went out and stood in the cave opening. And see, a voice came to him and said, what are you doing here, Elijah? And he said, I have been he's saying the same thing, he's repeating himself. So I heard you the first time. For the children of Israel, forsaking your covenant, they have thrown down your slaughter place, they have killed your prophets with the sword, and I am left alone, and they seek my life to take it. And Yahweh said to him, go return on your way to the wilderness, to Damascus, and you shall go in and anoint Hazael as sovereign of Syria, over Syria. And anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, as sovereign over Israel, and anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, of Abel, Meholah, as prophet in your place. Now see, what was happening right there was a transition that was going on. See, Elijah was going to a higher place because he'd been through his wilderness. Not only did he have to go to the wilderness, but he had to go back through the wilderness to get to where he was, the journey that he was sending them on. So now look at this. And then he said, and it shall be that whoever escapes the sword of Hazael, Yehu does kill, and whoever escapes from the sword of Yehu, Elisha does kill. And I shall leave 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to bow, and every mouth that has not kissed him. What he was giving him comfort and hope. And not only that, you about to come with me. Now listen now, I want y'all to recognize this. The man, he was having his ups and downs. He was having his ups and downs. But guess what? When you go down, there's always somewhere to go higher.
That's right.
And if you keep reading through his transition, he trains Elisha to take his place. And not too long, a couple years after that, you know what happened? Yah sends a chariot to come take him to heaven. He goes to the promised land that we see. You see? Remember this. When Yahushua was describing Yah, he said he's the living God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You don't serve a dead God.
That's right.
So I'm here to tell you this. As we walk through our wilderness, that's when you will hear him, that's when you will see his movement, and that's when you will know that he is still with you. So don't get discouraged because the fiery trials come along. Trust him.
Yeah.
Believe him.
Yeah.
And just as Yahusha did, sometimes go into the wilderness so you can get a clearer picture, so that you can hear him. Because sometimes you have to get away from all the noise, especially in our current society, just to get away from the noise. Sometimes Pastor Smith talking about taking him and his wife and just going camping. That's get to a secluded place where you can hear, and I just found out that we right here by the Smoky Mountain, so I'm thinking about taking a trip up to the mountain. That's a good experience. So don't be discouraged. Remember this. Next week we celebrate Passover, so we'll have a Passover message because this begins the feast of Yah. Amen. Amen. So as we close out, I ask, is there anybody that had, well, first, do you have anything else to say?
I just want everybody to remember that while on the cross, Jesus went through a moment of the wilderness when he says, Father, why have thou forsaken me? Mm-hmm. Okay, he got a little bit weak for that moment, yes, but he was fulfilling his task so that we may have everlasting life. And David said he has never seen
The righteous.
the righteous.
Forsaken, not seen a seed begging for bread.
Amen. And that's what David is saying, and that's what Jesus is saying on the cross. God didn't forsake him. God was right there.
Yes.
And see, we all get a little mad and angry when one of our loved ones died. And you know, I hear quite a few of the preachers say, and quite a few people say they ask God, why did you let my son die? Why did you let my daughter? Even Job had something to say in that area.
Oh, yeah.
And God said, where were you? I was right there.
Where were you not created?
Where were you
Not created.
when I created the world?
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. You know, in Joshua 1, God knew that Joshua was getting ready to go in his wilderness because Moses had died. He tells him 4 times, be strong and of good courage. And in one of those times he said, haven't I commanded you to be strong and of good courage? Because he knew he was getting ready to go through something. So he wanted him to know he's not going to be alone. To just, when those times come, to remember to be strong and of good courage because I'm going to be with you. He said, just as I was with Moses, I'm going to be with you. So this is encouragement before you get into your wilderness, what Minister Wesley and Pastor Smith is talking about. be strong and of good courage. This is that they're warning now, so you can be prepared. That it's all gonna be a blessing once you get to the end of that wilderness, period. The blessing is there.
Amen.
Amen.
Like that jealousy thing that you was saying that when you like God is the creator, that's why he get to be jealous. Ever since like I started learning, like I was wondering why is jealousy a sin if he get to do it. But you cleared that up.
Good point.
Zach, you got anything?
That was a good word. I learned a lot about the wilderness because I never thought about like some of the stuff that you named as being the wilderness. I always thought it was like just it being it, but like you opened a new understanding.
All right. Sandy, you there?
Yes, I am.
You got anything you would like to add?
I would just like to add that, I don't know, well, I'm pretty sure it has been said already, but I'm going to say it again. It's nice to be out in the wilderness because that's when you can think and focus your attention on your Father. And that's what a lot of us do need sometimes, and we fail to realize that when we are out in the wilderness, he wants us to speak to him even more so than we already do sometimes. And this way he can guide us even more than what he already is. So a lot of times, that's just my feeling on this, that sometimes we do need to be in the wilderness even more so we can hear him even more clearly than we do now.
Amen. Amen. You know, I think about when people before Yahusha hit the scene, where were they going when they heard one crying in the wilderness? To the wilderness, because John the Baptist was out there baptizing people and yelling, make way, prepare you the way of Yahuwah. He said, make his path straight. So sometimes, I mean, like you said, we're led to the wilderness so that we can get that word, that strengthening that we need. Tori.
Some people, their wilderness is what they call their closet. Their wilderness is when they be talking about, I be driving down the road and I be talking with God, it be just me and God. Your wilderness is anywhere where you be alone with God. And when you're going through stuff and you take that time to get alone with God, you got a prayer room, you got a secret place, people just, they have a lot of places to go to, but they have to realize that that's their wilderness at that time.
Amen. All right. So right now we'll take up the tithes and the offerings, and normally if you don't have it in the form of money, then you give it in the form of praise. Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you, God. All righty. So, with that being said and that being given, Todah, Emmanuel, you got anything to say? All right, we will close out and dismiss.
Amen.
With uplifted hand. Yes, sir.
Can I say?
Say it.
In all my ways.
In all my ways.
I shall acknowledge him, and he shall
direct my path.
direct my path.
In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
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 Amen. All right. Well,
I love you all. You all have a blessed one. And Marcos called when I was on prayer. We were on Bible study, and he said for us to pray for him, and that he loves you all.
all right. 10-4. We will. All righty. So as they said,
Already done.
all righty. So for those of you on YouTube, you'll also be able to go to Fireside Chat and watch this video because I will upload it on their site as well. And I love you. Yahuwah loves you. Don't forget to say thank you,
Thank you,
Yahweh.
Jesus.
Yeah, we should.
Love you. Talk to you soon.